Hi, welcome to the 14-day weather forecast. Cool and showery conditions have become well established across the UK, but if you're hoping for something drier and warmer, there is potentially good news on the way. I'll begin by taking a look at the view across Europe and the North Atlantic. The animation runs from 18 GMT, Tuesday the 28th. At the outset, low pressure is dominating things. We've got an Atlantic flow pushing across the UK. That's bringing the risk of showers or longer spells of rain to all regions, but particularly the north and the west, often drier in central and eastern England. Then things begin to change as we head through the weekend. High pressure from the Azores starts building northeastwards towards the UK, increasingly bringing drier conditions, particularly to southern and central regions. Through into the early part of next week, that general trend continues. High pressure increasingly starts to assert itself, and the unsettled Atlantic flow becomes more confined to the northwest of the UK. Quite a significant change there happening, at least according to this GFS model run. Looking at the air mass profile associated with it, to begin with, mostly greens across the UK with low pressure centred just to the northwest. Not much changes in the short term, but later on as high pressure starts to build from the southwest, the yellows and oranges become more dominant and they cover most of the UK by the early part of next week. A warming trend up aloft. So is that reflected down at the ground level? Well, to begin with, Wednesday maximum temperatures, coolest in western parts, warmest in the east, but only just approaching the average there, around 22 Celsius at maximum. Going forwards to Friday, not a great deal has changed. If anything, it's a little cooler in the east. And as we go through the weekend, the nights remain rather chilly at times, so pleasant sleeping conditions down into single figures widely, but the daytime temperatures begin to rise. 24 Celsius there in southeastern Britain on Sunday, and that general trend continues into the early part of next week. 25s, 26 possibly in the southeastern corner, as it starts to become a more high pressure dominated and settled picture. That's also illustrated by the MOGREPS chart. This one shows mean surface level pressure from all the runs in the MOGREPS ensemble. It's for London. Initially there's a dip down to about 1,010 millibars, but later on the trend is clearly upwards as pressure starts to rise and it begins to settle, become increasingly settled. Rainfall. The deterministic models, the ECM 0 to 5 day chart on the left, GFS on the right, quite consistent with each other. Wettest in the north and the west. Some rain in all parts of the UK, but amounts in central and eastern England probably remaining low. Although even there could be significant local variability with some heavy downpours perhaps in one or two places. The 0 to 10 day charts show that in the northwest of UK, amounts have continued to stack up, but elsewhere the increases on the 0 to 5 day values are not very great at all, suggesting that trend towards a more settled pattern towards the end of the first week and into the second week. So, do the deterministic models support each other towards the end of week one? Just to recap, here's the GFS, Tuesday the 5th of July. High pressure from the Azores, pushing northeastwards, bringing a more settled scenario. That's also supported by the Canadian global model, same time, Tuesday the 5th, the German icon, the European ECM, and finally the UK Met Office. High pressure increasingly influential. There are differences as ever in the details, but I would say those deterministic models are pointing towards a high degree of confidence in a change towards the end of the first week, increasingly settled, therefore drier and probably warmer too. Cloud amounts will be a factor in that equation, but temperatures should generally be rising. Well, with week one finishing on a more settled theme, will that trend continue as we go through the second week? Here's a 16-day GEFS ensemble plot for London. Across the top, air mass temperatures, and I've annotated them as being near to the average, but there are some very warm runs in the mix. The ensemble mean, the thick purple line, remains close to the thick black line, the 30-year norm, so there are some cooler ones there too, but I think it's worth keeping an eye on the possibility of much warmer conditions, much warmer air mass moving over, at least for southern part of the UK. Also, at this time of year, even close to average, just a little bit above perhaps, will generate warm conditions down at ground level in the strong sunshine, if of course that puts in an appearance. And there are some suggestions that it will, because looking at the number of spikes across the bottom showing forecast rainfall from each of the individual runs in the ensemble, not many at all. Perhaps just towards the end, an increase. Generally though, a dry week looks to be strongly favoured in the south. Going up to Belfast to see the view in the northwest, it's a similar picture really. There are fewer very warm runs in there, but the signal is for close to or perhaps slightly above temperatures at the 850 HPA level, so 1500 metres above our heads. Also, although there are more spikes across the bottom than there were on the London plot, it's still a relatively dry picture, especially taking into account that it's in the northwest where things are wetter on average. 2 metre temperatures. The data table for London, the dark oranges dominating through week 2, 21s to 25 Celsius, but there's a lot of red as well showing up now. Those are the 26 to 30 Celsius runs. Also a little bits of pink, so a few runs going over 30 Celsius. Temperatures very likely to be above average for much of the second week, a chance of it turning very warm or even hot. The data table breaks down into these values. I thought it was worth showing because it does help to highlight the range which is being forecast by the ensemble, the possible scenarios. So on the 12th of July, we've got one of the runs going for a maximum of 18.4 Celsius. That's at the very low end of the ensemble. But at the top end, there's one going for 34.5. So a big range, over 16 degrees there, just over 16 degrees from the bottom to the top end of the ensemble. But most of the individual runs are suggesting above average at that point. Looking at the data table for Belfast, light oranges here dominating, 16 to 20 Celsius, some of the darker orange as well, and a little bit of yellow there too. But of course, cooler as you go northwestwards on average. And I think what this shows is a reasonably warmish picture, being very likely for much of the second week. So temperature's probably a little bit above the average. The mean surface level pressure data table for York. Well, the yellows are increasing through the second week. Those are runs going for 1,011 to 1,025. The oranges, which are the 1,026 to 1,040, so high pressure, do reduce later on, and a little bit of green turns up too, 996 to 1,010 millibars. The trend, therefore, is for higher pressure than average, probably through the first few days, but maybe dipping later on. Just hints there of it beginning to turn more changeable towards the end of the second week. And on the rainfall charts for London, there was an increase in the number of spikes towards the very end, so perhaps low pressure areas beginning to come back into play by the end of the second week. The GEFS mean surface level pressure plot for Friday the 8th of July. So this is the snapshot taking all of the individual runs in the ensemble for this particular time. And averaging them out, it suggests that high pressure from the Azores will still be very influential. So driest in the south, southwest, probably a greater risk there of rain in the far north. And the European ECM, very similar at the same time, a high pressure dominated scenario by Friday, the 8th of July. So to summarize, week one, it begins changeable with showers or longer spells of rain. Wettest in the west generally, but there could be some downpours even in parts of the east, but they may well be localized. Rather cool in general terms, but the highest temperatures in the east. Towards the end of the week, it begins to turn more settled as high pressure builds from the southwest. Temperatures should start to climb. That trend continues into week two, therefore often dry and warm. There is a chance of it turning hot on some days, perhaps around 20 to 25% based on the current data. That's in the south of the UK, lower as you go northwards. Then towards the very end, there is a signal for it to begin to turn more changeable again, especially in the northwest. A greater risk of showers or longer spells of rain is what is being suggested. So there we have it, a cool and showery start. High pressure then returns. It should be turning much drier and warmer too. There is a chance of hot conditions, but they're not favoured just at this point. Something to keep an eye on though. Perhaps towards the end of a 2-week period, pressure starts to fall again and the risk of showers or longer spells of rain returns, mostly to the northwest. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Thanks for watching now. Bye.